Start game now. Welcome, fans, to another edition of the No Swear Gamer. Today, Gizmo Duck is joining us. He's been out of the picture for a while, so I told him, hey, why don't you bring me a game and we'll review it? So he hopped on over to my place and brought me Kangaroo for the Atari 2600. Check out that label / box art. I think it is awesome. One of the more colorful label box arts for the Atari 2600. Really catches the spirit of the game. You got Mama Kangaroo punching out a monkey with some, it looks like an eaten apple there, some strawberries, and baby kangaroo captured in a cage with a little veil or some sort of mask over his eyes so he can't see. Really gets a good feel of the game. You kind of get the idea of what's going to happen. So let's go ahead and hop on over to our Atari 7800 Pro system and put in this Atari 2600 game and find out just how much kangaroo hops Kangaroo has. Let's go to the game. Kangaroo for the 2600 is based on a 1982 Atari arcade game that was developed by Sun Electronics. Now, you may not have heard of Sun Electronics, but you may have heard of one of their divisions called Sunsoft. One of the reasons why you don't see this game in Atari collections is probably because it belongs to Sunsoft themselves and probably are unlikely to let Atari use it in their collections. It came out on the 2600 in 1983. It is a 1 or 2 alternating player game, very similar to Donkey Kong in style. Baby Roo has been kidnapped and it's up to Mama Roo to rescue him from a group of monkeys. You are given 3 lives. Pushing the button will allow you to punch. The joystick is used to move left or right as you would expect. However, you can also jump, especially if you use diagonal left or right to jump across barriers and gaps. The jump is very touchy. There's many times when I was playing the game where I jumped accidentally because if you go even a little bit up on the joystick to even pushing left or right, it will make you jump. As I said, there are monkeys that are coming against you. They climb down on the right side of the screen in this kind of little barrier area. They will climb up and down, enter one of the platform levels, and throw an apple at you. I'm very thankful that the manual clarified that they're throwing apples. That's right, they're throwing apples, everybody. When they throw an apple, they will throw it either high or low. If it's high, you can duck underneath it, and if it's low, you can try and jump over it. After they throw an apple, they will retreat. However, you can punch them either before or after they throw the apples to defeat them and get some points as well. Now, the arcade had 4 levels, but the Atari 2600 port has 3 levels, which is actually not too bad for a 2600 game. The manual, interestingly enough, says the second level is the most difficult of the 3, which makes you wonder, well, why didn't you save it for last? Now, there is fruit you can collect on each level for points. If you ring a bell, which is normally located near the top of the level, it will replace any fruit you've already taken with new fruit, which you can get for even more points. The first fruit on each level is strawberries. You don't have to ring a bell for that one, but if you get the strawberry and ring the bell, it will turn into tomatoes. Those are worth 200 points. Cherries come after that, they're worth 400 points, and then pineapples are the last fruit. They are worth 800 points apiece. So you can replace the fruit 3 times by hitting the bell. There's also a timer bonus that is very similar to Donkey Kong in style, where the quicker you complete the level, the more points you can get. There are 2 modes, Novice or Advanced, and you can play either of the 2 modes as 1 player or 2 players alternating. I thought the graphics for a 2600 game looked really well. I thought the animations of the characters were just phenomenal for a 2600 game, and everything fit just right. Music and sound wise, I thought the music and sound is very good. When you complete a level, you hear Oh Susanna. When you hit the bell, you hear the Westminster Quarters, which I call the grandfather clock sound. Did you know that that song had a name? There you go, you learned something new today. The punching sounds very good as well, and so does the jumping and the moving of the characters. There's lots of sounds in this game. It's one of the most soundful Atari 2600 games there is, if that's a word. Soundful, it is now. And it is a family-friendly game because the monkeys are throwing apples, okay? I don't want to hear anything else, it's apples. In 1984, Kangaroo also appeared as one of the segments in CBS's Saturday morning Supercade cartoon series. On eBay, this is a very affordable game to get. Loose copies cost about $4, and that includes shipping. I think I mentioned this before. Typically, if it's $4, that means the seller's making about $1 after the pay for fees and shipping and so on and so forth. So it's very cheap as far as 2600 games go. And complete and box copies and new copies both ranged somewhere in the $10 to $12 range, though that price did fluctuate. Now, over on Facebook and Twitter, I asked people what they thought about Kangaroo on the 2600, and these are the responses I got. Paul from the Retro Obscura podcast called it a top 10 2600 game for him, and he loved to play it as a kid, and it still plays pretty well today. Matthew said that he wished that they made a 7800 version. That would have been very cool. They did, however, make a 5200 version. Over on Twitter, G. Allen said that he got it a while back and he found it to be pretty fun. And Robert McKay said it's fun in a pleasant, sentimental way. Certainly one of the better ports for the 2600. So it seems pretty favorable all around. So what did I think? Would I recommend this game? Well, I'll tell you this. When I was younger as a kid, I thought this game was one of the best games on the 2600. I had a lot of fun. And I think it's aged pretty well. It has lost a little bit of step because sometimes there are times when you're trying to jump over gaps and it can be a little difficult to make them. It feels like the control could have been a little tighter like it is in a lot of platformers today. But for the time, it was great. And even though it may not have aged perfectly well, it still plays phenomenally. And I would say that this might be one of my top 2600 games as well. I don't know if it's a top 10 or top 20, but it's a game that I say, especially for the price, if you are a 2600 collector, you need to get this game. You need to try it out at least once. And I would probably say that you should have it to own permanently in your collection, especially considering that you're probably not going to see it in any collections today, considering that it is a Sunsoft game, and Sunsoft hasn't really been doing much with their properties lately. So I would definitely look up the 2600 port. I'm guessing the 5200 port is good as well, but I have not played that one. I believe it may have been released on some computer systems as well. So I definitely would recommend it. So where would I rank it? Well, let's go to the top of my list and look at Haunted House. And you know what? I still like Haunted House a little bit better than this game. Haunted House is a solid game. Definitely would recommend it a little higher. But, you know, I think I like Kangaroo more than Dark Chambers, and I like Dark Chambers a lot more than most people do. But I'm going to make it my new number 2 game out of all the Atari 2600 games I've reviewed so far. So there you go. Kangaroo on the 2600. I say out of 10 Kangaroo Hops, I'd probably give it 8.5 Kangaroo Hops to 9. I think it's a solid 2600 game. Definitely recommend it. So there you go, guys. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day. Don't forget you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Go to either one and search for The No Swear Gamer. I look forward to seeing you there. And I look forward to seeing you right here too, right here on YouTube on the next episode of The No Swear Gamer. Take care, everybody.